All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of the Rider Review presented by 13K Productions after a tough 19-9 loss as the Riders fall to 3-3 against the BC Lions. I think today we're just going to go quarter by quarter. Let's start in the let's just get right into it here, I guess. The defense really came out hungry in the first quarter with 2 sacks. One of them by a player who a lot of people have been really dissing over the last few weeks here in Micah Johnson. What did you think of that first quarter start by the defense?
To start off, it is Sunday, and like I start off every show, all glory and praise to God. Micah Johnson came through yesterday. Our defensive line actually had some push yesterday. I was quite hopeful seeing that first quarter. I think they all played good. Brian Cox made a little noise until he got injured. Lake Corte Moore, he had a decent game. I was pleased to see Micah Johnson.
And I was also noticing throughout really the entire first half there, Fine and Bandy, their connection was struggling really, especially after that muffed snap, I guess. I really don't think you can say that's on anybody other than Bandy there. But what did you think about that center quarterback connection there in the first half at least?
Not good. We need Peter Godber back in a big way, guys. Logan Bandy's a young guy but he's seen some time. Like, he was virtually our starter for most of last year, obviously with Dan Clark going down. So it's time for him to play better. Now, the cohesion and chemistry between center and quarterback, I suppose, takes some time, but it's not like these guys haven't played together in practice as well. So, it was a little iffy for sure. And I'd be lying if I said I'm not concerned about Logan Bandy, and boy, we sure need Peter Godber back.
And that goes with the whole offensive line, right? And I just wanted to touch on really Council. He was losing his temper a lot, and eventually you saw Craig Dickinson get out there and just started screaming at his players to get on, tell the special teams to get on the field and the offense to come off. Personally, I thought that was a little bit nice. I thought that was nice to see Craig go out there and really take control of the team. He also threw a challenge flag finally to, during, I think it was the first half of the game, right? And what did you think of Dickinson's attitude, I guess, this game against BC here?
Well, I'm sure we'll get into Dickinson's future and whatnot here in a few minutes, so I'll save my big stuff for that. But say what you want about Craig Dickinson. What he's done for the discipline this year has been outstanding. He's really done a great job, and it was good to see some fire from him last night, pulling the boys off the field, because it never helps the team like that. Like, just walk away from those scrums, unless it's, a blatant, horrible intent to injure, then no holds barred. You do what you have to do to protect your teammates. But, that nonsense after the whistle, there's no place for that. We're not a good enough team to take penalties like that. And Brandon Council, that was a horrible penalty. That was just inexcusable. His play is starting to concern me as well, but I don't know if we have anybody else on the roster right now that can slide into a left tackle position.
100%. You really just have to go with what we're given, and if Council is what we have to do, then it's who we have to play, And in the first quarter, another quarterback in the CFL goes down with an injury in Vernon Adams. Now, last I heard, it's nothing too serious. They're not ruling him out for the game against, I think they're playing Edmonton. And I just wanted to touch on the QBs going down across the CFL. That's, I think, how many starters is that now? 3 or 4 now, including Saskatchewan's own Trevor Harris. And we have a bunch of younger guys coming up. Just what are your thoughts overall on just the QB situations across the league right now?
It's I don't think it's hyperbolic to say it's devastating. It simply is awful. It truly is. We don't want to see any quarterback hurt. Although some teams might wish harm upon ours and celebrate our injuries, and I have seen that. But we hope VA is okay. It's not structural, so that's good news for him. If we had any kind of chance yesterday, and I didn't give us much going in, to be quite honest, but when I saw VA go down and it was clear that he wasn't coming back, I thought, okay, here we go. We got a chance. And that certainly didn't come to fruition,
And Dane Evans, I guess he came into that game, and it's tough when their backup quarterback has much more experience and really just played better than our backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of backup quarterbacks, right? Like these guys across the league, a lot of them are looking decently exciting. And we touched on this before the game. Dustin Crum, that guy I know we both lost connection here, but Dustin Crum looks really, really exciting.
Yeah, I lost you.
Thank
Dustin
goodness
Crum
for editing. But
yeah.
Crum looks
he
really exciting over there in Ottawa. Just what are your thoughts on Crum himself?
Don't call it a crumb back in the T-shirts.
I think we're losing a little bit of connection here.
That was great.
Well, we're just. Well, I'm just going to keep going, Tyson. If you can hear me, just join me back in here.
You bet.
So moving on to the second quarter here, I guess. We saw quite possibly the most entertaining play of the game in the second quarter, and really that just. I think that's on Dickinson himself. He's the one who deals with most of the special teams calls, right? It was the punt, the onside punt, and there we go. We have him back here. All good, ladies and gentlemen. But I was just chatting about the onside punt to I guess Jorgen Hughes, who actually recovered it. That was, I think most people would agree, probably the most exciting play of the game. Just your thoughts. I think it was Dickinson who called that play because he deals with all of the special team stuff. Thoughts on that play?
I think it was an opportune time to do it, right? Catch the opposing team off guard. I liked the timing. I personally didn't like the play at all. I didn't think it stood a chance. I believe they call that a hole shot, or that's what Dickie referred to it last year when we did make that work. I liked the timing of it. I didn't like the call. That some questionable calls by Dickinson throughout the game. By no means do I think his calls costed us the game. But that 3rd and 2 from our own 42 in a tight game is inexplicable. I have no idea what he was thinking. In post game, he said his defense was tired. That just sounds insane. I can't believe he made that call, and I'm at a loss of words for that one.
And I think at the end of the first half, there we saw Mason Fine starting to really trust his receivers a lot more. He was gunning it in there, and really it continued throughout the game until his 2 interceptions there, and even one of those interceptions can be contributed to that trusting his receivers a little bit too much. But just your thoughts on the trust and like that connection he has to be able to just gun it in there and have his receivers do a lot of the work.
Yeah, I'm not going to be too hard on him. I know you're a Mason Fine guy, and it is only his third start, but boy, oh boy, I just one thing that was interesting yesterday, the day before, our offensive coordinator Kelly Jeffrey explained that Kelly Jeffrey was our OC already, and we hadn't signed Trevor Harris yet. And he explained that the offense was, in actuality, designed around Mason Fine and Jake Dolegala. So I guess my question would be, if the offense was admittedly designed around those two dudes, why was it a horizontal offense yesterday? It seemed like the play calls really showed no trust in Mason Fine. You know, a 5-yard pass was considered a deep one yesterday. So I guess I just don't understand if the offensive playbook was designed around him in part. What was the deal with the play calls yesterday? Having said that, I do think we have to give Mason Fine another start, at least another start. The reason I say that is once you pull Mason and he doesn't, after not performing, and you put Jake in, it makes it really, really difficult to go back to Mason Fine if Jake doesn't work out. So I'm still going to support the kid, hell or high water, but I don't like what I see so far. But having said that, I think we got to give him another start.
And one of those receivers he trusted a lot in that game was Sean Bain Jr. And Bain himself was an absolute workhorse with 10 receptions for 74 yards. He is one of the most talented receivers in the CFL, and you just see how explosive he is. Thoughts on Sean Bain throughout the game in general?
Yeah, I think he's electric. I think he is on his way to being one of the most underrated receivers in the league, and possibly is at this point. His lateral moves, his quickness. He's a better version of Kyron Swerve Moore. I truly believe that, and I almost think he ought to be featured in our offense. He's dynamite. There was a lot of conjecture coming out of camp because he did not have a good training camp, So I'm really, really glad to see him reaching his potential.
And then I guess after a Amari Henderson interception, I think that was really you could call that, I guess, the peak of the defense, because after that, like you said earlier, the defense really started slowing down. The defense started declining after that. And really, I think that comes down to coaching. Just your thoughts on the defense slowing down a little bit there.
Well, our offense couldn't move the ball. It doesn't take a football expert or a rocket scientist like our boy Dustin Crum there to figure that out. Yeah. So maybe Dickie was correct in his assertion that the defense was getting tired, and that's why he went for that 3rd and 2 on our 42. Yeah, they were on the field a long time, but man, that was just a putrid offensive performance. And, a big shout out to RD and Coach Shivers for keeping us in the game. I think they played great.
Yeah, that our defense played absolutely amazing with what they were given. I mean, when you can't capitalize after starting on BC's, I think at one point they were starting on BC's, 30-something yard line?
Yeah,
during that game,
phenomenal field position all game long. The game was there for the taking. If our offense could even have been average, dude, and we were nowhere near average last night.
And just to speak on that, I think what added to our offense struggling was Jamal Morrow only averaging. I think he averaged less than a yard per carry with 12 carries for 11 yards. And I think that really that speaks to how good BC's defense is. Just your thoughts on Morrow's game.
JMO was terrible. He's been terrible the last 2-3 games. I'm not putting it solely on his shoulders. You're right. You're absolutely right, buddy. BC is possibly the best defense in the league, but it seems now that we're saying that for 2-3 weeks in a row. And of course you give credit to your opposition, right? You always do that. You know that. But at some point we have to start looking in the mirror and maybe kind of, a little introspection, I suppose. BC is phenomenal, but I just don't think we were going anywhere.
Yeah, and I think where most people started to really get worried was the 2 interceptions there in the fourth quarter that Fine threw, especially that last one there that he threw. It was
bad.
I think he just threw that up and was just hoping his receiver came down with it. But there was 3 defenders there that those were the only people anywhere near the ball.
Yeah. He. It's really tough. I know it's only start 3, but this is year 3 for Mr. Fine. He's not a raw rookie anymore. We got to stop making excuses. He might turn it around. He very well might, and I'll be the first guy to eat crow on that. But man, some of those picks, it's hard to watch.
And then I just have to touch on this. Matthew Betts is having a monstrous season over there at BC, and
yeah, he is.
The fact that he was able to get on the board with 1 sack at the end of the game, it just hurts. And I think that puts his total up to either, I think it's 15 or 16 on the season or something crazy like that.
He's got 10 now. That was his 10th. He hit double digits, and of course TSN kissed his butt for that, and I suppose deservedly so. He's a heck of a rush and a Canadian to boot. But that one, I was the same way. It really bothered me. Last play of the game, garbage sack, if you will. That was tough to take.
And then I guess something that's positive we can touch on. You and I have been harsh on him, but Brett Lowther, 3 for 3, 44 yards, 9 points. I think we did something.
Well, maybe us bagging on him all the time kind of lit a fire under his butt there. But yeah, he was 100%. He did everything we asked. It's just unfortunate that the only points we can seem to muster the last 2 games are field goals. And I'm telling you right now, we're not going to the playoffs if that's all we can do.
Anyways, like you said, like you said earlier in the podcast there, we were going to touch on Craig Dickinson here. What do you think happens from now? Because a lot of people are calling for his head, and
lots of people.
I don't think that's correct. I don't think you can place this all on Dickinson.
No.
Just your thoughts on what they should do.
I honestly, I'd kind of like to see him gone, but not after this game. This is not the cause of his dismissal this last game. That was not all on him. Kelly Jeffrey and Mason, they share a lot of blame on that. So we're not out any money, right? We all know that J.O. and Dickie are in their last years, so it costs us nothing to turf them. I think so. We've lost 2 in a row. I think if we lose another 2 or 3 in a row, Dickie will be gone. And J.O. might pull that trigger just to maybe save his skin. I'm not sure. What do you think, buddy?
Honestly, looking at our schedule here, we play Toronto next week, which is, I'm sorry to say it. What can you say? Toronto is the best team in the league by far.
Yes.
And then, so I don't think you can really blame that game on Dickinson if they lose. I mean, that remains to be seen. I mean, if we can play Toronto and beat Toronto, I think we'll be planning the parties now, But I think you got to wait till at least after the August 11th game against the Alouettes, because our next 3 opponents are Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. As I'm looking at the schedule here, Ottawa and Montreal are 2 teams that we should beat.
Those are winnable games.
If we can't beat those teams, then yeah, I agree with you 100%. We pulled that trigger on firing I'm firing Craig Dickinson.
Yeah, I think so too. Those are 2 winnable games, and it is doable. We have 2 guys possibly waiting in the wings that can slide in in an interim basis, and that'd be Andre Bolduc and Jason Shivers. But I don't think you pull the trigger right now. I think that'd be silly.
And I think we also have to touch on the quarterback situation. Fine. How short of leash do you think he's on after a game like that? I don't think it's that short of a leash. I think you still got to give him another game or two. But I guess, I don't know if you call that a short leash or not. But if he doesn't put something together in the next 2 games here, I think we have to go to Dolagala. I think there's no other option, literally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you give him one more game for sure. And depending on how he is in that game, if he stinks the joint out next game and doesn't have any help and can't create any kind of spark or what have you, then I think you got to pull the pin. But I think you give him at least one more game and possibly, like you suggested, 2 more games.
I think that pretty much does it, unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on, Tyson?
Nothing too major, but so I guess I got to ask Brett Jones, former NFLer, what's going on with him? There was talk in the spring that he wants to play football again, but was waiting to hear if he was going to get into med school. Well, it's now the end of July, and we haven't heard anything. I'd love to hear somebody comment on that, or ask somebody in the know, I guess. So I'm curious about that, kid. We got Braden Lennius coming back next week. That should help. What else do we got? Oh, Sean Lemon signing in Montreal, which coincided with the release of Nick Usher. I think he's a great rush end. What are your thoughts on those items?
Really, I'm not too sure about Patterson. I don't know what's going on there. With Lemon signing in Montreal, I think that's a really good move for Montreal over there. Bringing in the reigning most outstanding defensive player, I believe he was last year.
In the West,
yeah, people were calling for him to come to Saskatchewan, which I think was hilarious. He was, from what I hear, he was vocal about not liking his time here. But
Chris Jones asked him to drop into coverage, and Sean Lemon is
not a coverage guy.
No, he's not. He's not any. He's kind of a me first selfish guy. But I really don't give a hoot right now. We need to win games before we fall too hard. So I like that Nick Usher. If we can bring him in, he's going to be cheap. And failing that, I haven't heard too many people mention it yet. But failing that, what about Charleston Hughes? Third down rush end, I don't see the harm. He's a coach on the field. He'll come in and play for peanuts, and he's a Hall of Famer. The province loves him. Rider Nation loves him. I just don't see how that hurts us.
Honestly, I've been following him on social media. I don't know what he's doing right now. He's staying in shape from what it looks like. So I think he's still looking for a team to sign with, right? He's 6th all time in sacks.
I know. So he's like 3 away from getting into 5th.
And yeah, I agree with you there. Like, what's wrong with bringing in a guy like Charleston Hughes? There's absolutely nothing wrong there.
He's good for the mojo. Everybody loves him, and the dude can still play. Like, let's not write him off as washed up. Like, the dude played last year. He had sacks last year when he was on the field. Perhaps I'm biased because I just love the dude, but I just don't see what it would hurt. I just wanted to touch briefly on your boy Tremaine Washington, and you're pretty excited to see him in there. Do you see him replacing Jeremy Clark or Marty Henderson, or what's your thought? And I also want to point out that you messaged me that he was coming into town, and that was a full 24 hours before the news broke. So hey, folks, start listening to us.
Yeah,
we got the goods, but comment on your boy there.
Well, I don't know how much playing time he really truly will get, being that he is older and our defense looks to be really good at this point in the season. I mean, aside from falling off in the last few quarters at their last game. But,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really just – the defense needs better conditioning. Aside from that, I think the defense is really good. So, and I think that Washington is really a nice complementary piece. I think that's what he was brought in to do. He's brought in to be a leader. And I don't think that's a bad move.
No, I think it's a great move. I look forward to seeing him, and I know for a fact that Jeremy Clark's on the hot seat. So yeah, for an insurance guy, you can't do better than that. He's a vet. He played in the XFL here too as well, so he's in shape. He's ready to go. So I'm pretty excited about that signing. I'd just like to see Nick Usher brought in here.
Alrighty, yeah, that would be a really nice move. I haven't seen the stats, but from what I've been told and what I've seen, he's a good player. I mean, really, it's really nice to get a lot of depth in the league right now with all this injury stuff going around. I mean, it's tough, but the teams have to deal. It's next man up, and really you got to deal with injuries, and bringing in players helps out with the depth there.
Yeah, I hate to be too negative, but let's be honest. We're less than 24 hours after a bad loss, and you and I are both realists. We're hardcore Rider fans, but we're realists, right? So I'd just like to point out that the offensive game star on CKRM last night was our punter, Adam Korczak. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, and I think that pretty much says it all. That says it all. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. We hope that next week we can be elated and happy to be here. We're really happy that the Riders will hopefully win. But
yes, sir.
With that said, they're playing Toronto. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you guys let us know any guests you guys want us to bring in. We have a few guests that we're working on bringing in. So, yeah. Tyson, anything you want to share with them? Anything new you're working on?
No, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for listening. Each and every listening means a lot to us. We really appreciate it. And let's take care of each other. And let's go, Riders. We got to squeak into the playoffs, baby. Let's go.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. And we will see you guys next week after the Riders have taken on the Toronto Argonauts at Touchdown Atlantic.